Hello, welcome to Taksha by MeroSiksha. I'm Vivechana Sharma and I'm again back here with another question that is from the grammar section, and this question will appear in your question number 9. So now let us further delay, let us move to the question first. So the question says, reproduce the following sentences as indicated in the bracket. So you'll be provided 6 different sentences from the grammar section and you will be asked to reproduce the new sentences being based on the instruction provided to you in the bracket. So now let us do the question number A. So the question reads, let's start a game, and we are asked to supply a correct question tag here. So whenever we are supplying a question tag, we should be very much familiar and we should be watchful about the subject provided to us. So here the subject provided to us is let's. So this is the contracted form of let us. So whenever we are provided let us, whether it is in an affirmative form or a negative form, you should be very watchful about, or you should be very careful that we are supposed to use shall and then the pronoun form we. So the question mark. So let's start the game. Shall we? So the proper correct tag would be shall we. So now let us move to the another question, that is Sita cut grass. Now we are asked to supply the yes no question form of this statement. So the provided statement is affirmative form. So now as we know that this is an affirmative form, now let us identify which one is the verb over in the sentence. So which one is the verb here in the sentence? So the verb is cut. Now after identifying the verb, now let us find out in which tense the sentence is provided to us, because in order to change into the yes no question form, we should be knowing in which tense the sentence is provided to us. So and then only we'll be able to connect it with the proper structure, right? So the verb is cut. Now let us identify in which tense is it provided. So any guesses? So if the sentence was if the verb provided to us have added the thing is, if the verb it will be very easier for us to identify the tense of a sentence to the verb as well. So what do you think is the proper tense of in which the sentence is provided? So any guesses? So yeah, the sentence provided to us being based on the verb is in a past form, because the cut verb is the irregular verb, and we don't use ed in order to make the past form of the cut. So as this is the irregular verb, as we have identified, this is the irregular verb, and then the provided sentence is in a past tense. Now let us recall the structure of the yes no question pattern. So the first thing is we are supposed to add the auxiliary verb and then only the subject and the main form of the verb and then the object, right? So now as we know that the sentence is in a past form, what would be the auxiliary verb of the past form? So what would be the auxiliary verb in the past form? So the auxiliary verb would be did. You are correct. Did, and then we'll add the subject, and then we'll add the verb, also the base form of the verb, and then the object. So now let us create a sentence being based on the structure. So did, our subject is Sita. Did Sita cut grass? Question mark. So now let us move to the another question, that is number C. And in question number C, it is asking us to change or to reproduce the sentence in a negative form. So let us recall the sentence structure of the negative form. Now the negation, the sentence structure for the negation form would be, what would be the structure for the negation form? So we should, whenever we are asked to change the negative, we should always know that we are asked to create the not form. So if we are creating a sentence into a negative, whenever we are creating sentence into a negative, the placement of a not is very necessary, right? So now what would be the structure? Let us recall the structure. The structure would be, it's quite simple. The structure would be subject plus auxiliary verb plus, along with the auxiliary verb, not, and then the main form of the verb, and then the object, right? Now let us check whether the structure, whether the sentence here provided in the question is in the proper pattern of the structure or not, because I can see here that we are already provided the negation form of the verb in the sentence. So here subject, he is the subject, so does not know. So we are provided the auxiliary verb does, and then the negation form not also, and then the main verb is no, and then the rest of the sentence is provided. That is the answer either. So the sentence is already in a negation form, so we don't have to change it. Now let's move to the another question. That is, the question is asking us to change into indirect speech. So whenever we are changing into indirect speech, we should be very much familiar, we should be very much watchful, and we should be very much familiar with what sort of sentence is provided to us, because being based on the sort of a sentence, we are supposed to change this into another form, that is indirect speech. So now let us focus only on the second part of the sentence. So second part of the sentence reads, don't miss the opportunity. So here, so any guesses which type of sentence is provided to us in the second part? What do we call this? What type of a sentence do we call to this? Don't miss the opportunity. Any guesses? The sentence here begins with the verb, and then the sentence here is also provided to us in present tense. So now, so what sort of sentence is this? So yeah, this is imperative sentence. So imperative sentence is the sentence that gives us instruction or commands or advice. So here in this sentence that is provided to us in the direct speech, here the sentence reads, the principal said to the student, don't miss the opportunity. So here the principal is saying something to the student, and what is the principal saying? The principal is advising students to not to miss the opportunity, right? So now, as we have already identified that the provided sentence is in imperative form, that is here the principal is ordering, or the principal is advising the students to do something. That is, what is that something the principal is advising? The principal is advising to not to miss the opportunity. So now, as we are reporting, indirect speech means to report something that has been said to us by someone. So now, what the principal said to the students? The principal, now we are converting this said to into the reported form, as we are reporting what the principal told to the student. Here we would be writing advice. The principal advise the students the principal advised the students not to miss the opportunity. So yeah, now let us move to the another question, that is number E. I love people calling me by my nickname, and we are supposed to change this into passive voice. So now, as we are asked to change this into passive voice, now the first and foremost thing that we are supposed to do is we are supposed to identify the verb in a sentence. So here the verb is calling, right? And in which form we are provided? This verb is in a verb 4 form. It is in a continuous form. So as per the rule, what are we supposed to do now? So if the active sentence includes continuous form, in which tense we will be changing, and what is the structure that we are supposed to follow here while we are changing this active sentence into passive? Any guesses? So whenever we are provided continuous form in active voice and we are supposed to change that into a passive, we are supposed to change the verb that is into being plus verb 3. This should be this is the idea that you should be watchful about. So if you happen to mistake in this idea, the answer would be wrong. So the very simple thing that we are much more familiar with is we should be inverting the position of the subject and the object as well. So beside that, we should also be placing the verb. We should also be changing the verb with the appropriate idea. So now, I love people calling me by my nickname is in the active form. Now, in order to change this into a passive form, we have recognized that the calling is in verb 4 form, and while changing this verb 4 into a passive form, we are supposed to change this, adding being plus verb 3, that is being plus called or being called. Now, I love people calling me by nickname. So now what are we supposed to do now? So the speaker is expressing that he or she loves, I love, here pressing verb that is being called, I love being called by my nickname, full stop. So whenever we are changing this into passive form, the correct answer would be I love being called by my nickname. So now let us move to the last question, that is I dash cut my finger, it is still bleeding. Now we are supposed to use the correct form of verb that is provided to us in a bracket, and the verb provided to us is cut. Now we are provided two different sentences here. First is I cut my finger, and then next other half of the sentence is it is still bleeding. So the other half of the sentence passes us the impression that something has happened, and then here it is still bleeding. This second half of the sentence provides us the impression that the idea is still continuous in present as well, something that is still happening. So now after reading this sentence, what do you think? What type of sentence structure are we provided, or in which category, in which tense these sentences fall under? So I cut my finger, it is still bleeding. Now we are supposed to put the appropriate verb of this cut. So here, whenever we are expressing something, whenever we are indicating the idea that because of the particular event something is still happening in a present as well, so we are indicating to a tense that is present perfect tense. So present perfect tense identifies us or expresses us the idea that something happened in the past, and because of that particular event we are still facing a consequences in the present as well. So here the subject I happened to cut the finger in the past, and now as a consequence it is still bleeding in the present. So now what would be the present perfect tense of this cut? So now let us recall the structure. What would be the structure? So what is the structure of the present perfect tense? Has, have plus verb 3, right? Now we should be very watchful about the subject also. So the I is provided to us in a first person pronoun, and then we will be adding have over here. And what would be the verb 3 of the cut? So as verb 3, this cut is the irregular verb, so we will be writing cut as it is. So our answer would be I have cut my finger, it is still bleeding. So I happen to cut the finger in the past, and as a consequence it is still bleeding in the present. So thank you.